Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the video, and today I bring to you some early impressions of the Star Wars Battlefront II beta from an avid Battlefield 1 player's perspective. Now if you end up finding this video helpful or enjoyable, then I genuinely appreciate you taking that split second to hit the like button as always. With that being said, keep in mind that this is the beta and they are my very early impressions, so anything I say is subject to change before and after the full release. I'll also be talking specifically from a Battlefield 1 player's point of view, so my viewpoint will not necessarily match up with that of your average gamer. I'm also not saying that this game is in direct competition with Battlefield 1 or that comparison is all that matters. It's simply that I play Battlefield 1 and the vast majority of my subscriber base does too, so it seems pertinent to discuss Battlefront 2 with that in mind and give Battlefield players an idea of if they will actually like Battlefront 2 or not. Now what you're seeing is the private beta for those who pre-ordered the game. The open beta will be live from October the 6th until October the 9th. I obviously played in first person mode, as again you can see, as I'm a first person shooter fan. You can also play in third person if you so wish. The pros and cons of each are currently unknown to me, as I simply much prefer to play in first person. And so, as for the game itself, let's just get this out of the way. It looks great. It looks like a genuine current gen AAA title, and it definitely adds to the experience. I harped on about how bad the COD World War II beta looked because I was just so taken aback by it. This game certainly doesn't have this drawback. Now in terms of gunplay, the game feels good. It's satisfying to actually play it, which is again obviously very important, although it does feel like a scaled down Battlefield title to me so far, but we'll come to that a bit later. I can absolutely tell you that this is a far better game than its predecessor, which was a bit of a joke in my eyes. It had almost no depth to it and that awful pickup system for heroes and vehicles. That is thankfully completely gone from this game, and instead you earn heroes and reinforcements through points you earn during the match, which is obviously a far better system, and I never want to see pickup rewards like that in a game like this ever again. That being said, it can be a little frustrating to play against some of the heroes, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. They're supposed to be powerful, hence you having to earn them. It just sucks a bit getting cut down by Darth Maul 4 times in a row because your team refuses to teamfire him. Much like in Battlefield 1, if the teammates around you don't support you in that situation, then you're gonna have a bad time. Moving on, we have the class system, which will be reasonably familiar to players of Battlefield. You have Assault, Heavy, Officer, and Specialist, and they do all feel significantly different, which is great. It means you can tailor your selection to your skill set or the situation, and variation helps to keep the game interesting. However, there are drawbacks where the classes are concerned, and this is where we'll start to talk about Battlefront 2 feeling like a scaled back version of Battlefield 1. The classes may well feel different, but they don't do a huge amount more than simply kill people in different ways. The Officer can buff surrounding allies and place down sentry turrets, but this is pretty much where the team support aspect ends currently. There's very little else to pad out the gameplay and create that team play dynamic that Battlefield 1 has. Medic healing, support resupplying, scout spotting, assault destruction, there's nothing of the sort here. It's a much more simple and arcadey experience, and this is fine. It's no doubt absolutely what they were going for. Star Wars has a massive following, and young children will most likely also be interested in this game due to the brand power, so perhaps it needs to be somewhat simple in order to appeal to the mass market. And you personally may well enjoy this. I'm not saying that I don't either. It just feels less of a complete experience. There are less ways to score points and be an asset to your team. This also results in much more simplified statistics and feedback during and after the game. A lot of the time it basically comes down to how many people you help to eliminate and how much you played the very basic objective. Added to this is that the game just feels less epic than Battlefield 1, and I mean that in somewhat of a literal sense. There are generally a lot less players on the map than in Battlefield. There's a lot less going on and a lack of destruction in different range fights occurring. There are less unique moments, and it pretty much feels like people just going around shooting each other. Again, it's more simple. Again, this is fine, but I'm very used to how Battlefield 1 feels now, and this is far less awe-inspiring. If this game had been released before BF1, then it would likely have had that epic feel for me, but it's coming out after it, and this is a bit of a shame as it makes it feel a tad hollow by comparison. On the plus side though, it does feel like you're in the Star Wars universe. The game would be hugely let down if it didn't feel authentic, and it thankfully does. You can recognize the environments and the entities within them. Droids, clones, and whatever else, they all look and feel genuine. And before I conclude, I'll just bring up a couple of other gripes I have, one minor and one major. The minor one being that map traversing is far more limited in Battlefront 2 than in BF1. You can't mantle, scale, and maneuver around things anywhere near as much as you can in Battlefield 1. This makes your potential engagements and sightlines far more limited too. It caught me out a few times actually, as I couldn't use clever escape routes or juke around a player in the way I would in BF1, and I couldn't access areas that it looked like I should be able to because I simply couldn't climb to them. So although the map maps look detailed in much the same way as Battlefield 1, you're left feeling like it's far more linear, and the routes you can take are all strictly set to blend into the environment. It doesn't feel realistic, which is a shame, but not the biggest problem in the world. The major issue I mentioned pertains to loot boxes, because the loot boxes can provide you with cards to use in the game that can modify your units, and I really don't like this in a game. Cosmetics are fine, but anything that alters how the game plays is a massive negative for me. There were 3 or 4 occasions that I felt like I was absolutely going to take someone out, only for them to turn and blast me away. The death screen would then show me that they had some of these cards equipped, and it just left me feeling cheated. I hate this practice in games. Let people get kills and earn things based on how they played, not that they opened something in a loot box and put it on for that match. Overall, this video sounds pretty negative, but I actually did enjoy the game. I think it will be a lot of fun, especially with friends, and I will be playing it, unlike COD World War II, because when I reviewed that beta, I just wasn't impressed at all. This is a fun arcadey shooter done on a larger scale than most, and I appreciate the positives it has. It just doesn't compare favourably to Battlefield 1 as far as I'm concerned, but Battlefield 1 is pretty much my favourite game at the minute, so maybe it's not a fair comparison to make. I am biased. Star Wars Battlefront 2 is a lot less serious and detailed, and for some that will be just what they want. But this is all just my opinion. What do you think? Let me know in the comment section below. There's a link towards the bottom of the description to support the channel if you're feeling especially generous today, as the demonetization hammer finally hit me yesterday, and hit me kinda hard actually. And finally, feel free to like, comment and subscribe. I'm GetGoodGuy and I'll see you next time. Laters.